Good morning, everyone. Inspired Energy here with Kris Dutchak this morning. Good morning, Hartwell.
Good morning, Kris.
Yes. And this morning, the topic that Hartwell has chosen for us to discuss is the body-mind relationship and its connection to spirituality. Now, how does this relate to human design? So, what does human design say about this connection between the body and the mind?
Well, it's quite interesting. I've been really diving deeper into what it says lately, and I've been quite inspired by it. Basically, when you look at a human design chart, as we have been in this series, you've got an entire set of astrological placements that are the personality side of the chart, and the other side of the chart is the design, which is the body. So these two things operate, in a sense, you could say, independently of each other. And what brings them into relationship is strategy and authority, which we've talked a lot about as well.
Right.
But there's the acknowledgement in human design that these are two different sides of ourselves that they need to be brought together somehow in order for us to live properly.
Right. So could that basically be like the ego and the soul, or like we're saying, mind and body, but I guess people from every tradition have different ways of labeling it or looking at it. But to me, it sounds like you're talking about my mental state and my state of my heart, my being, right?
Yeah. I've studied so many different systems, Kris, and you're right. This is really tricky.
Yeah.
It's because the the personality side of your human design chart is about your consciousness. What are you likely to be aware of? Now, there's something in human design called the design crystal and the personality crystal, which might have correlations to some of what you're saying, our innate purpose or our connection to the divine.
Right.
But the design side is quite explicitly how we are designed physically. So it is not, it is very clearly including that as major part of the equation. So human design's metaphor that it constantly uses might get us might bring that a little bit more into focus for us. Human design uses the metaphor of, think of it this way: you have a vehicle, a car or a truck, you have a passenger, you have a driver. Who do you think you are in that metaphor?
Right.
Do you want to play? I mean, you probably know the punchline.
Well, yeah, but I just, like, my mind is going because there's all different ways of looking at it. So it could be the conscious and the subconscious, right? Like, there's different terms, different labels that you can put on it, but it's really talking about the same thing, and that we need to be able to, like, reconcile and make these one, right? Make them
so that they're all on the same team or on the same page or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. So with that in mind, then when we talk about the mind, is that the major contributing factor to what controls one's life?
Well, let me flesh out this metaphor just for a moment. Okay. Your body is the vehicle. Okay. And it is given to you. It has a particular design. And the passenger is your consciousness. So think of what we know from meditative disciplines or spiritual traditions. They often say, sit in meditation and learn to understand that you are the witness. You are the witness to what is going on in your life. And it's like you can see your mind doing all this stuff and you're witnessing. Now, the driver is an inbuilt It is the design and personality crystal in you that in a sense hold you to a trajectory through your life. So you could see that the driver is the divine in you. And you need to let the driver drive. But the passenger constantly wants to interfere.
Oh, backseat driver.
Yes, exactly. So we need to let the driver drive and learn how to be the passenger.
Mm-hmm.
But that means kicking the not self mind out of control of our life. So the conditioned mind wants to do this and this and this and this, and it needs to be kicked to the curb.
Yeah, interesting.
So what I've been so excited about this week, because it's sort of struck me in a new way. I lost my train of thought there. What was that last question you asked me?
I was saying, does the mind control the course of one's life? What is it that is in charge of controlling your life?
Right. So in our metaphor, the driver is what's carrying it is holding you to a trajectory. But the not self mind will interfere with that. So we need something in order to help us release the programming of the not self mind, which is programmed by parents, teachers, our society, our friends, all of that. And have the chance to kind of sink into the way our design is actually intended to operate.
So it's doing the work to actually unlearn what you've learned, basically,
Yes.
so that it can function the way that it's meant to. So
yes. But the exciting thing is that, I mean, I don't know about you, Kris. I know you have had quite an interesting journey around your physical body. But, you know, there's always this feeling that somehow, at least for me, you know, I can be really heady. I can go off into mental realms. But when I say I'm doing my yogic practice regularly, when I am feeling in touch with my body, when I'm exercising regularly, then everything works out better. So the body is clearly an important factor in the way our lives unfold for us.
Well, it's the vessel, right? The vessel has to be in working order for us to get what we need out of it, right? To help carry us through this life. Yeah.
Yes. But more than that, it's not just kind of, keep your car in good shape so that it carries you somewhere. It actually has a wisdom of its own.
Well, but
remember,
you can't hear that wisdom if you're not taking care of it, I guess is what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah. I would agree with that. The exciting thing for me is that when we speak about integration, when we feel like, when we talk about those moments when we feel most powerful, which are often those times when our body and mind, body and consciousness have been most in sync, how do we cultivate that? Human design says you follow your strategy and authority, and then the two sides of yourself, the design side, which is the body, and the personality side, which is your consciousness, will function together as an incredibly powerful unit.
So talking about integration then, so what does human design, or like how does one bring about integration between the body and mind? And what does human design say about that? Like you were saying, to follow your strategy and authority.
Yeah. So what hit me like a ton of bricks this week is that the idea that body-mind unity is how we're meant to function. There's not meant to be any separation, but in classical or academic philosophy and in a lot of the Christianity over the last couple thousand years, there has been this dismissiveness towards the physical, towards, it's been labeled sinful, it's been labeled a distraction, it's been labeled all sorts of things. But human design says something quite different. It's like, this is half of the programming of your own being. This is, if you're not bringing your body to the party, you're not showing up at the party, So, right. One of the things human design says is that your consciousness or an integrated life, which we might use the word spiritual to describe that. It has to include the body. And that the new spirituality, the new ideal, or the new and updated understanding is that you cannot live as a spiritual being if you are not integrated with your body.
Well, I know that some people, that's where their intuition or their gut feelings come from, right? So they listen to their body and they go, oh, that just doesn't feel right. There's something about that that's not okay. And then that in turn helps them steer their course or make a decision on what they're going to do based on how their body communicated with them, right?
And I thank you for bringing that up, because human design would say exactly the same thing. 95% of us have inner authority, which means it's either an in-the-moment intuition, it's either a kind of a reaction from our gut, or it's a clarity that we can get from our emotional nature. And these are the most common inner authorities, and they are physical. It's a feeling, a sensing. Okay. So we want to reclaim our willingness to pay attention to all the sensations that we experience, rather than making the decisions with our mind.
Right. What about the inner knowing? So like there's the sensation, but then there's some people that just have an inner knowing and they just know, like that's part of their design too, is just, but then something like trust comes into it, right? And allowing that information to come into you and trusting that it is right for you. So
yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've got, most of us have a good 70 years to figure this out. So it's not like, it's not like we don't have time in the laboratory to get kind of experiment and figure it out. Yeah. Human design would say, depending on your type, if you're feeling bitter, if you're feeling frustrated, if you're feeling angry or disappointed, depending, any of those things, you're not in alignment with your design. Right. However, if you're frustrated, you can be satisfied. That's going to be your key for generators. If you're bitter, you can learn how to be successful, which is what projectors do. If you're angry, you can learn how to be at peace, which is the manifestor thing. So we've got these clues as to when we're not on track. And what takes us off track is making decisions with our mind.
Yeah.
Our mind is, and I mean, most spiritual traditions point to this. It's not our mind. And maybe for the point, maybe for the sake of this conversation, we could almost say the mind as ego, or the ego as mind, as not self-mind. That is what takes us away from things.
Yeah. So what does human design, like, where does it fit into when you talk about spirit and spirituality? Like, where does that enter into the conversation when we're talking human design?
Human design would say, if we're following our strategy and authority, then the driver will be in charge of our life, and it will lead us to a life of alignment with how we were meant to be operating. And that, you could say in a broad general sense, that would be to live a spiritual, on-point life. Now, if you were doing that, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be overtly spiritual, like you're going to be a yogi or you're going to be, write spiritual books or be a long-term meditator. It means that you will go through life and the impact that you would have aurically on others is this person feels grounded. This person feels like they are at home in themselves. They feel like they're moving through life in a way that is without resistance and brings results that are enjoyable to them.
So then it would be an inspiration to others, which is what we're here to be the best that we
Yes.
can be. So then in turn, we inspire others to become the best that they can be.
Yes. And there would be a sense that they were original, that they were
Right.
that they were really themselves, and that they were admirable to that, admirable as a result. It's very Zen. It's kind
Yeah.
of like be who you were meant to be who you're designed to be.
Exactly.
And
Wow.
that capacity lies within the reach of all of us.
Well, this has been a really interesting subject for this week. So I hope you all enjoyed the show. The body, mind, spirit relationship and connection to spirituality. So if you have more questions or you want to talk more to us or you want to book a reading, you can give us a call here at Clarity and we'd be happy to book one for you with Hartwell. Human design is something that I didn't know was so fascinating, but once you get into it and then you think about one more question, one more question, one more question. So I would encourage people that even have had a reading before to use it and come in and go deeper with it. I know it has helped me in many, many ways. So with that, we'll see you again next Wednesday at 9 a.m. and hope you all enjoyed it. So bye for now. God bless.